so delighted to have on my show today Brigadier General Ernest Audino. You are most welcome.
Well, thank you, Maria. It's my pleasure to be here.
You understand very well the defense bureaucracy. What defense reforms do you suggest should or must be implemented to enhance American security?
Yeah, I think it begins first and foremost with a return to a grand national strategy that served the United States and I think the Western world very well throughout the entire Cold War. We had a grand strategy that was focused on the necessity to have to fight and win two simultaneous wars. And by doing that, by presenting that posture, we first and most importantly deterred the war, the ultimate war that would have existed between the Soviet Union and the United States, two great superpowers. That was deterred for the duration of the Soviet Union. And that was, you do not deter war by signaling or showing weakness.
What about China? Should we be concerned about our national security, and what damage to our national security may have occurred as a result of the recent spy balloons traveling over U.S. airspace?
Yeah, well, let me take China writ large first. Yeah, we should be concerned with China, but China is not itself invincible. And China also, especially China, given its military tradition, China does not want a direct confrontation with the United States. China will, however, and is trying to incrementally constrict and degrade the United States across all four elements of national power: diplomatic, information, military, and economic. It is doing that across the globe, and it is diligent in those efforts. But China is not invincible, and China has a very strategic vulnerability. China fears nothing more than disruption of its trade with the United States or with the West. China itself has great apparent wealth, for example, but that great wealth is concentrated in a belt within China, approximately 100 kilometers long. That is 100 kilometers wide. That is the belt along the Pacific coastline. Those are the trading communities with the West. And the rest of China, which is, by the way, 80% of Chinese wealth is concentrated in that belt of 100 kilometers wide. But ironically, the rest of the Chinese landmass, which is 80% of the Chinese landmass, subsists on a per capita income of $3,600, $3,600 per capita per annum. That is pathetic. That is a tremendous, disproportionate distribution of wealth. And
this is the weakness in the China regime. We have a short time, so we have to stick to I have many questions for you, General. You served as a tank platoon leader. What impact will the tanks delivered to Ukraine have on the conflict, and your point of view of what's going on there?
Yeah, well, let's tackle the tanks first. So yeah, we sent roughly 30 tanks to Ukraine. These are M1s, are very capable tanks. But again, 30 tanks is roughly just two companies worth of tanks. It's not a lot. It's not a game changer in itself. The deeper question, however, for the Ukrainians is, how do we help them establish the ability to strike deep into the rear areas of the Russian formations? Because the best defense is not simply sitting there passively and allowing the enemy to continue to pummel you. It is by forcing the enemy to fight throughout the depth of his array, by sending lethal, survivable combat power directly into his rear areas. Tanks like the M1s can do that, can help do that. They have to be supported, however, with all combined arms, deep artillery, deep strikes by aircraft. So that's the sort of thing that we really have to help the Ukrainians achieve.
Yeah, I have a question about the mediation of the United Arab Emirates between Russia and Ukraine. We saw lately a swap, prisoner swap, and do you think that the Biden administration can benefit from the role of UAE in this regard?
Well, yeah, I mean, the UAE has done has made great progress throughout, let's say, the Gulf region, bringing parties together. Um, yeah, sure, everything is on the table, and if UAE has relations that can be exploited to bring parties together, absolutely, yeah.
Mm. You served in Iraq. Do you think that the Iraqi army can defeat the insurgency and help stabilize the intern situation in the country, regardless of the Iranian influence?
That is a great question because I believe the insurgency is not really the ISIS or Daesh jihadi insurgency that it was. That's being managed. The real issue, and this is the insidious insurgency, it is the Iranian co-option. They have co-opted 70, let's say 60% of Iraq. Tehran now dominates all of the Iraqi ministries, dominates the parliament, prime minister, and the Iraqi security forces themselves. In 2016, maybe 2016, no less than General Qasem Soleimani himself, commander of the Quds forces of the Islamic Revolutionary Guards Corps, Iran's special forces,
Mm.
no less than he stated and boasted the quote, the Iraqi security forces are now a Hezbollah army.
Yeah,
Think of that. Think
yeah.
of
This is absurd. I want to ask about the how Iran can use Iraq as a cash flow bank or smuggling, money laundering. There is big organizations using Iraq in this situation. Can you say on this
well,
matter?
I'll just say this. Yes, we are aware of this. Yes, we are been trying to constrain the central bank of Iraq and its role in money laundering of Iranian money in the evasion of sanctions. So we watch this. We do try to constrain it, and there's more to come. More to come.
Mm-hmm. I have a question I ask every time on my show. What is the likelihood and potential timeline for Iran being able to produce and possess a nuclear weapon?
All right. I can't speak directly to the actual timeline, Maria.
Mm.
The motivation for Tehran to acquire a nuclear weapon, that will never go away so long as the present regime is in power in Iran. And sadly, and I wish there was another option, but I really only see two ways that this is going to be resolved without the development of nuclear weapons.
Mm.
Either a regime comes to power in Tehran that no longer wants nuclear weapons. Okay,
Mm.
so that's one logical option. Or two, somebody destroys the Iranian nuclear weapons program.
What
Without that, I think the Ayatollahs will continue to pursue a nuclear weapon.
what about the role of Israel? Israel is or the government in Israel is ready, especially after Netanyahu took power, is ready to confront Iran at the last breath. How do you see this situation?
Well, Israel faces a strategic reality. It is a country with little strategic depth, okay, that we would say in military terms. Enemy aircraft, for example, could be directly over Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or in a matter of minutes. They don't have a lot of reaction time. And so they have to be able to deter or destabilize growing threats. So Israel is very serious about that. Israel, in my opinion, has to always remain ready to destroy threats on the horizon. They have to. They don't have many other options, and that includes an Iranian nuclear regime.
Your approach on the Abraham Accords, you think these accords should expand? And what about Lebanon? Do you hope that Lebanon will join one day, despite Hezbollah refusal?
Yeah, that's a great question too, Maria. The Abraham Accords have been a remarkable development. And what I'll quote a 13th century Persian poet, Saadi Shirazi, who said, joint interests make for the best allies. And this is true. You know, the Abraham Accords recognize every partner in the Accords recognized the growing Iranian threat. Every one of them. That is in deterring or destabilizing or destroying that threat is in the interest, the common interest of all of those parties. Now, here's something to consider. Now that Iran has dominated Iraq and has made Baghdad essentially Tehran West, Iran has established a land bridge all the way to the shores of the Eastern Mediterranean. The last time Tehran had any meaningful military presence on the shores of the Mediterranean was 2,400 years ago during the days of the Persian Empire. This is unbelievable to me as a military reality today. And so people are absolutely concerned about this. While Iran is doing that, Iran is also trying to establish naval assets, naval bases off the coast of Yemen. They've also recently signed a lease on a naval base near Tartus in Syria, again on the Eastern Mediterranean shoreline, and it's also very near the Russian base at Tartus in Syria.
In Syria. About the earthquake, to help the relief effort following the earthquake that happened, that struck Syria, do you think the U.S. should finally lift up sanctions against Syria and disregarding what is known as the Caesar Act?
Yeah, I don't think we should lift the sanctions because I think we can help the people by other means. We did it during Operation Provide Comfort in 1991 in Iraq. We kept the sanctions and actually military presence inside Iraq against the Ba'athist Saddam Hussein regime, and we still came to the aid of our allies in the Kurdish North. It is the humanitarian and moral right thing to do to go help those survivors of the tragic earthquake. We can do that, and we can help others do that directly. We don't have to lift sanctions on the Assad regime.
Brigadier General Ernest Audino, thank you so much for your time. I'm so glad to have you again.
Maria, my pleasure. Thank you.
Hey, Maria Malouf here. Please click to like and subscribe to Maria Malouf TV YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.